Hello and welcome to the latest OpenChain webinar. This is our 52nd production. Amazingly, we've done more than one a month for the last several years. We're going to do something a little bit blue sky today. We're going to hear from some representatives of the Okinawa Open Labs talking about an idea for a trusted network initiative, a way to create, for want of a better term, universal labeling for the provenance of software or perhaps other material in the complex supply chain. This is a blue sky webinar. Our representatives from the Okinawa Open Labs are working on a practical implementation. For us, it's our first time to engage and hear about this. Let's find out what they're doing and why. Let's see what we think of the idea and potentially provide feedback. Before the webinar starts, though, I'm going to show our antitrust policy notice as usual. We do like to show this at the beginning of every meeting of the OpenChain project. Everything we do is governed by the antitrust policy of the Linux Foundation. You can find the full policy on our website. And if you're from a Linux Foundation member company, you can contact our counsel, Andy Updegrove, with any questions you might have. But let's not dally too much. Let's dive right in. So we're very fortunate to have Mark to present today about this initiative, and I will immediately pass the floor to him for his self-introduction and then the presentation itself. Mark, over to you.
So first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. This is Mark Tsujika from Okinawa Open Laboratory, joining from Alaxala Networks company. Alaxala Networks is just a small network device vendor in Japan, and we have been providing guaranteed network to Japanese infrastructure segment. So since last year, we have been working on the trust chain project called Trusted Network. So Okinawa Open Laboratory launched the project. So today, I am going to introduce how it looks like, and we hope that we can exchange our opinions to produce better achievement through the project. So let me start my presentation. So first of all, as I explained to you, we are from Okinawa Open Laboratory. Then we launched the Trusted Network Project Phase 1 last year, 2022. So in the Trusted Network Project Phase 1, we did the Trusted Network Framework R&D and its proof of value. So we have more than 20 companies joining to this project, and we exchange our opinion, and we discuss. We had a lot of discussions around how we implement the trust chain over existing supply chain and value chain. Also, we had the panel discussion. We invited the U.S., Taiwan, and also from Japan expert, and we had very good discussion with them. So we are moving on together. So the Linux Foundation, especially OpenChain, is very important standard to achieve our goal. So we are willing to collaborate each other through this webinar, and we hope that we can exchange our opinion. Also, as I said, we introduced this project to both United States and Taiwan government. As you know, United States and Taiwan are very important partner of Japan. And we are also referring to the Trusted Web architecture, which is driven by digital agency and Japan Cabinet Office. And we are also trying to contribute to the standardization activities for the supply chain trust based on domain knowledge and achievement from the project. So we hope this presentation help us to find possible collaboration points together with OpenChain. And this is another background. I'm sure that you guys are familiar with this. We had the Economic Security Promotion Act. It was last year, May, and within that Economic Security Promotion Act, we have 4 pillars there. And we are trying to focus on second pillar, security of fundamental infrastructure. So this is very interesting actions of Japan government, because for those 14 fundamental infrastructure segment, starting from power supply to payment card services, of course, telco is included, and operation of airports, etc. For those 14 infrastructure operators, the government will do some sort of security assessment or security approval process. So this is the outline of Economic Security Promotion Act. So for security of fundamental infrastructure, based on the plan of Japanese government, it will be February next year. We are going to have actual guideline for those 14 critical infrastructure operators. So this trusted network project is also a kind of preparative action to make us ready for this Economic Security Promotion Act. Okay, so let me start trusted network overview. So first of all, this is my lunch. I love sandwiches. So unfortunately today, I'm working from home, so I didn't take sandwich, but I usually take sandwich for my lunch. And every time I buy sandwich, I always check this one. I believe that you will also check this. In my case, I read almost everything every time I buy sandwich. And also I'm going to check this one. So in Japanese, the label says flour made in Japan. And of course, you can read a lot of things from those labels. And this is the same in Europe, US, and China as well, right? But the problem is the label is saying the flour made in Japan. But really? For example, you have 2 pictures of the bread. So can you identify which is made in Japan and made in US, for example? We have no idea. Even if you taste it, we have no idea. Also, those are the picture of flour, but we have no idea made in Japan or made in US. And also this one, but it happens, unfortunately, still in Japan. Sometimes I buy sandwich in convenience store, then it happened to me. This is really unfortunate. And every time I bought this kind of sandwich, I'm going to say, okay, I never buy sandwich at that store. But somehow, a week later, I totally forgot that. Then I buy the same sandwich again. I think it also happens to you. Okay, so just in case, I am talking about fundamental ICT infrastructure. This is not the webinar of sandwich. Okay, this is the webinar of trust network. Okay, so let me just show you this one. So this is AX 8300S chassis type of switch. So this product is getting old, but still good product. So when you think it looks good for your ICT infrastructure, then you're going to procure this switch. Problem is, what's inside? If you're going to check the backplane of the device, there is no label. So let's ask Alaxala Networks. But how? Unfortunately, Alaxala Networks have no protocol. If you're going to call us and, hey, what's inside in AX8300 product? We have no protocol. So question is, so when you procure the device, so Alaxala Networks is saying, like, this product is made in Japan, assembled in Japan. Then when you just take the network interface card and check the board, can you verify, is this really made in Japan or assembled in Japan? Nobody knows. How about parts? Are they all from Japan or from Taiwan, Korea, China, or US? Can you verify this? Maybe you can just read the label on the chip, then you can just verify it. But it doesn't cover all the parts on the board. The problem is that if you cannot identify that, it will probably be impacting to your business. It's probably with illegal parts, or it's probably with illegal software, and it causes cyber attack, weakness, or information leakage problem, and it goes to service interruption. So maybe you can see those pictures earlier in Japan. So this is totally different story from sandwich story. You can say that never buy any device from Alaxala Networks, but it's too late because the impact is huge. Business impact, economical impact, and nation's credit impact. This is huge. But again, those devices, I'm not talking about switches, routers only, servers, storages, all those ICT products, probably OT, sensors, and so on. There is no label, so you have no idea. So please think about this. We have label for sandwich. Why? Because food trust is important. So what about ICT infrastructure? Or what about OT infrastructure or IoT infrastructures? How about critical infrastructure trust? This is also important. Food trust is important, of course, because we eat that, and sometimes we will be dying by eating something very bad to our health. But everybody knows that critical infrastructure is used for hospital and also financial, train system. Everything is using critical infrastructures. So we are thinking that food trust and critical infrastructure trust are the same, both important. That is our conclusion. So based on the conclusion, our proposal is very simple. So first proposal, let's put the label. The second proposal is to check the trustworthiness. Third proposal is validate label and product. And last one is maximize the value of the label. So those are the proposal from Okinawa Open Laboratory Trusted Network Project. So Trusted Network Project is very straightforward project. What we are doing, what we have been doing, and what we are doing is all those four things. Okay, so let me just explain one by one. So put the label. So let's say vendor and product. And today, as I said, there is no label attached in the product. Okay. So let's say, okay, so vendor A is going to do something and put the label, which is not standardized. Are you happy with that? It's probably better than nothing. But if we have 100 types of label, it's nightmare. It makes us crazy. So non-standard based labeling doesn't make perfect sense. So what we do is, let's just standardize the label and attach it to the product. So we need standardization of the label. It's a very simple story. And next one, as you can see here, the sandwich has the same label. Not only in Japan, you can travel to US, Europe, China, Taiwan, anywhere, you see the same label. Beautiful, right? So what we do is just standardize the label, similar to sandwich, which is my favorite. Then second proposal is trustworthiness. So let's say we got the label from the vendor. For example, Alaxala Networks is network product vendor. So Alaxala Networks just put the label on a product. Then if you read the label, can you just trust the label? That is second question. I'm going to say, hey, trust me. But how do you trust the label provided by the vendor? It's also not making a perfect sense. So what we do is quite simple. I'm sure that you're on the same page. We need a self-assessment framework, or it can be third-party assessment framework. As long as it's open, that is fine. The most important thing is just add endorsements with an evidence by open self-assessment or open third party. It increases trust of the label. So this is the trustworthiness mechanism. Then self-assessment can say something like this: compliance rate of this entity or product label is 2 stars out of 3. And here you go. This is an evidence of the trust, and it's scoring. So in the Trusted Network project, we put the assessment framework and Trusted Network framework side by side. Then they're working together. We made them integrated. So we are adding the assessment menu. Of course, it can be, again, it can be open self assessment, or it can be done by third party, especially, the guideline or standard, which is quite complicated. We probably need third vendor assessment. So for example, NIST SP800 or IEC 26443 or CMMC or OpenChain or ISO 27002. We have more and more. So in the previous Trusted Network project at Okinawa Open Laboratory, we picked up SP 800 161, and we just provided the self-assessment sheet so everybody can fill up and register to the Trusted Network System. So we have a technology to evaluate it and put a score. So that's what we did. And we are trying to add more, and we need more voices for this framework. The next one is validation. So I said, as a third proposal, I said that let's validate label and product. So again, are we going to just trust the product? Because we have no idea. The flower made in Japan, but probably not true. Nobody knows. Is that okay for our ICT infra? Is that okay for our OSS community? Answer is no, of course. So unlike sandwich, we need some way to verify the label and actual products are the same. So what we did in Trusted Network project is also very straightforward. We put the technology for verification. So we just compare the label and product and check if they are completely matched or not. So this is what we have been doing. For the product without labels, because even if we ask all the vendors around the world, hey, please put the label, from tomorrow, it is impossible. So for the meantime, for the product without label, we also put the technology to generate a label. But as you know, this is not the perfect solution because this is completely garbage in, garbage out. But if it's better than nothing, we can, of course, do this. But again, this is a dangerous way because it could be garbage in, garbage out. Who is going to do this? When we do this, the timing, and also the who, that's going to be important. Vendor can do this using technology. Maybe that's the best way. Because if you procure the product, then you do this, it's probably too late. And there is no way to identify that. So I hope that everybody agree that we need a label for the product. So it leads us to the second question, next question, so how we distribute the label, how we deliver the label. So the important thing is it's not going to be the sticker type of label. Unlike sandwich, it's not good way for us because there would be some sort of confidential information which cannot be open to everyone. Okay, so we do this as open innovation, but those trust attributes or trust data, sometimes we need to put an NDA in place, then disclose it. So we need to keep those information on the label secure. So what we did in Trusted Network project is we did the platform development. So we apply standard technology as much as possible to keep this framework open. Then we implemented the label distribution platform. So this is a core of Trusted Network. Then we have another issue. So when I say platform, everybody imagine that, oh, it's centralized platform and controlled by someone. But again, vendor is going to put the highly confidential information on the label. We cannot 100% rely on the platformer. So this is Web 2.0 architecture. So trusted network is, of course, based on Web 3.0 architecture. So the technology and platform is completely decentralized architecture and open architecture. And of course, it is also capable to provide the root of trust. So digital ID and verifiable credential as a root of trust, okay? But one issue is that if we keep this completely decentralized, who is going to guarantee the SLA? Who is going to guarantee the security of this platform? Who's going to be responsible if any security breach happens? So at least in Japan, this is not easy for operators to accept. So using decentralized Web 3.0 architecture, but we are going to put someone, of course, it's not Okinawa Open Lab, it's not Alaxala Networks, someone, for example, it can be government, or it can be government-related party, non-profitable organizations. Those, third party will be the one to provide trusted network service. So using decentralized architecture with a service operator who's responsible for SLA. So Trusted Network project is Web 2.9 architecture project. It is based on 3.0, but we are going to put a organization to manage this. So it looks like centralized platform, but technology is 3.0. That's why it is 2.9 architecture. Then next one, okay, so we are going to put the label. We are going to define the label. Then we are going to provide the platform, technology, framework. Label can be distributed. But it costs for vendor, integrator, even for operator. So we need to add more value on the label. So question is how we maximize the value of the label. This is an important question for us. So our conclusion is using this label for the procurement team of operator or for asset management team in the operator or operation team or CISO, SOC, and CSRT team. It's not only supply chain trust during procurement, but also for OSS license management, vulnerability management, zero-day risk management, geopolitical risk management, sustainability management. We are adding those values. So everybody is going to be positive to do this. The value of distributing label is going to be getting higher and higher. But please think about this. If we do all those things without label, that's going to be too much pain for operator or integrator, even for vendor. If we manage them in the existing value chain and supply chain. Why? Answer is simple. Because we have been providing warranty service, maintenance and support service for the products, from vendor to integrator and from integrator to operator, and sometimes from operator to the end user. We provide those services. But we need more value. So trust chain enablement solves a lot of pains. So on the existing supply chain and existing value chain, we are going to create new chain on the top of them. So we are calling it trust chain. It is just a coincidence. The sound similar to OpenChain, but the trust chain means connecting trust value over the supply chain towards operation. So that is a naming trust chain. So please just see this. So in sandwich case, just in case Alaxala network is not selling sandwich, but this is just an example, okay? So we put the endorsement and its evidence. Sandwich doesn't have endorsement and evidence. Then it is going to increase the trust of the label and product. Then we utilize this label to add more value. And one more thing, the important thing is the price of sandwich includes cost of the label from the beginning. So it is accepted. This business model has been working with us. So it will be similar to the ICT network. So this is how it looks like. So as you can guess, the product and digital trust label, those are a pair. So every time vendor deliver the product, we are going to provide digital trust data. We call it T-bomb, trust bill of material. So it comes with product ID, which is unique to the product, and also hardware information, bill of material, with serial numbers included. And of course, SBOM is there. And we can add several audit log and so on. So this is a high level. The trust bomb, real trust bomb design is more complex. But to make it simple, we are going to put the label as trust bomb. This is digital data. Then every time we procure the product, you can choose, you can buy trust bomb, T-bomb. Or if you don't need the T-bomb, you don't have to buy it. It's just a business decision. And at the end of the day, operator is going to grab T-bomb. So using T-bomb, operator can do a lot of things. For example, traceability management and authenticity management. It is possible because inside the trust bomb, there are a lot of informations. And using this trust bomb, we can produce more high-level cybersecurity solutions. I'm going to explain that later. And as I said, we have trusted assessment system, which is going to link to trusted supply chain risk management system. And this system manages a assessment menu and assessment result evidence. And we can also provide gap analysis for procurement policy to actual compliance. Then we have trusted network data platform to manage those trust bomb data or assessment data and so on. So this is how trusted network looks like. And this is a busy chart, but as you can see here, using trust data, we access MITRE or NVD, National Vulnerability Database or Common Vulnerability Database. It is easy for us. I don't think I have to explain this to OpenChain community team. As long as we have SBOM, we can identify the CVE anytime, right? So asset management is going to be better. We have a lot of things, right? Cyber surface is going to be better. Then we also manage cyber attack. What we do in this trusted cybersecurity framework is that we simply match the cyber attack and also the vulnerabilities on existing asset so that we can identify most dangerous asset. Or could be we're having cyber attack, but the asset has no vulnerability. We don't have to take any action. It's a false positive issue, right? We have a lot of cyber attacks identified by detection system, but we have a lot of false positive report. So we can improve that. So using trusted network framework, we can just bring fundamental infrastructure trust to the new step. For example, scope, existing value is individual silos. Vendor solution is vendor driven, and also vendor proprietary solutions. An asset is just only physical asset. But trusted network is going to change it. The scope can be whole supply chain. It's not limited to ICT infra, ICT industry. It can be applied to semiconductor industry as well as a framework. Okay, and also solution, it has to be end user and ecosystem driven, and it has to be open standard. And we are adding digital trust asset to increase the trust. So this is the goal of trusted network. So I have a little more slide deck, but I'm not gonna explain everything. So why T-bomb? I think everybody understand now. Without T-bomb and with T-bomb, it's totally different. So the point is, it's not only for procurement operation, it also increases the cyber security operations, optimization. So the point, very important point for trusted network is to provide value for both procurement and cybersecurity. Then of course, vendor, integrator, parts suppliers, semiconductor suppliers, we also have value propositions through the trusted network. It has to be like that. So trusted network extensibility coverage is, as I said, coverage is any digital information can be managed using this framework. So materials and parts, for example, must not contain chemical or inappropriate hazard substances. Those are critical, so we have to manage it. So we can add those attributes as a new trust attributes. It's flexible. And third-party certification information, right? So this is also important. Inhuman labor force is not involved with productization. It is also important. So all those sustainability information or carbon footprint or eco-related information and human rights due diligence information. Technically, we can add any information. So quick data definition and implementation to provide additional digital asset with minimum domain knowledge and cost. That is a trusted network extensibility. So through the trusted network project, we are going to change the value paradigm. For example, when we say trust, it is just subjective today. But if we have trusted network framework, it provides objective data. So it is going to be changed from subjective to objective. And trusted network. So network is always heterogeneous, and it is always going to be proprietary trust silos, vendor by vendor. But using trusted network framework, it is going to be open one-stop federation of all the silos. So this is a new paradigm. And service, as I said, today, there are a lot of centralized lock-in type of services, but it has to be decentralized architecture based on Web3. But as I said, trusted network is not completely Web3. It is Web 2.9 architecture. Then through all those paradigm change, we can just produce open innovation to the supply chain, from ICT supply chain or semiconductor supply chain or IoT OT supply chain as well. So we have been doing this since last year. Then this is our innovation roadmap. So trusted network is just an ecosystem, so everybody can join this project. We have more than 20 companies right now, and the number of companies are increasing. Okay, so it can be multi-operator, multi-integrator, multi-vendor, and multi-technology. As long as it is open, we always welcome. Then together with, the public sector, like government team, so we have been working on the Trusted Web DFFT staff. So public-private partnership is important. Together with the open ecosystem partnership, then we are going to produce collaborative innovation through the Trusted Network project. So we are going to create social value first, and having social value is not enough to produce innovation. So we also have to create economic value together. So this is innovation development, which is Trusted Network project. So once we complete that, we are going to produce it to Japan infra or worldwide. So we need your opinions and cooperation to make our project better. Then we hope that we can use the same framework. I'm not talking about business, okay? I'm talking about framework, or standardization is probably the right word. So we hope that we can standardize all those trust-related framework. Then we can just produce trusted alliance all over the world. So this is the final goal of Trusted Network project. So for your information, this is the very high level system architecture. I'm not going to explain this today, but if you're interested, door is always open. You can join Trusted Network project. So thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. Shane, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Now, I believe we've got questions in from Kubota-san and Steve. Maybe we can do it in that order, Kubota-san and then Steve.
Thank you, Shane. This is Kubota talking. And as far as I know, there are similar discussions occurred at OpenSSF and SALSA. And in total, SALSA is a security supply chain framework. And in total is supporting the tools supporting the framework. And so I think it is very helpful to realize this world. So are there any collaboration or any plan to collaborate with these foundations or communities?
Thank you very much, Kubota-san. We are trying to work together as much as possible with those existing activities in Japan or in worldwide. So our door is always open, but the problem is nobody is entering the door. That is going to be, it doesn't make any sense. So that's also reason why I'm doing this webinar to OpenChain community. So answer is yes, we are always talking to all similar activities. A lot of teams, a lot of consortiums are trying to do the same thing. So we hope that we can collaborate more and more, but not all the activities in Japan or worldwide. We cannot cover everything. So please help us to collaborate more and more. Am I answering to your question, Kubota-san?
Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Steve, over to you.
Thanks, Shane. So first of all, great presentation. This is a little bit of a deja vu kind of presentation for me. I was part of the original SPDX team back in 2011, and the holy grail that SPDX originally tried to solve was a trustworthy bill of materials
Right,
that
right.
was expandable, right? So one of the biggest arguments I had when I was part of that, because I worked in Cisco's supply chain at the time, was when you're combining packages from different sources, you have to combine those bombs into something that represents the sum part of all of the different sub bombs, if you like, in order to understand the trust there. And the biggest challenge that everybody struggled with is, well, where's that trust actually coming from, and is the source trustworthy? And when you're a commercial entity like Cisco, you don't just trust your suppliers, you have contractual engagements that have indemnification and liability and all of those other sorts of clauses associated with it to address just the things you were talking about there, right? In terms of modern day slavery issues, in terms of what raw materials you're using, provenance, sanctions checking, and all of those other kinds of things.
Right,
and so I'm kind of intrigued. So long sort of preamble to my question or point, if you like. I'm kind of intrigued as to where the sponsorship of this effort from your perspective is coming from versus what seems to be, as I think the last person who asked a question, a lot of competing similar initiatives going on. I posted a link to Omnibore in the chat and watched some fairly interesting YouTube that Ed Warneke, who's still at Cisco and struggling with a lot of these things, has been working on it. And I think, if you can't convince somebody like Ed Warneke that this is the way forwards, I'm just going to be very blunt here. He's got a huge amount of influence at Cisco. So if he doesn't buy into this, Cisco won't buy into it. So that's part of your challenge, I think, in terms of building these networks, is getting the people who have the might and power intellectually and influence within some of the larger corporations where this is really important. And then the other thing, Shane, I would say that the Linux Foundation probably needs to look at all of these different initiatives and start, I think there's been an infographic at some point showing how they all come together, and start looking at where there may be redundancy or competition. Because the other point I would make and challenge is the more projects that are trying to do the same thing, the less representation you're going to get from the people who have the power to make things work. So I'd be interested in your thoughts on that and how you're going to tackle that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Steve. To answer to your questions, I think we need a couple of days discussion. So this is a primitive and fundamental question to everyone, I guess. But yeah, you are right. This is really challenging project. But fortunately, when I started this, it was actually 3 years ago. I was talking to Cisco as well. So I'm familiar with Cisco trustworthy solution, how it works. I'm familiar with the architecture and so on. But the problem is, it is just only for Cisco, and it's not realistic story. Everybody is using Cisco, and only one vendor in this planet. It's impossible. So the intention of this project is, let's say there are a lot of vendors, good vendors, but small vendor or mid-sized vendor. We need something. We need some framework. Everybody can join with low cost and less domain knowledges. that was the motivation of this project. And fortunately, a lot of company, corporation is doing this together without huge budget sponsor. Last year, we worked with the Trusted Web project team, and we got a small amount of support just as a fund. But fortunately, everybody is trying to realize the same thing. So it is really ecosystem-based project. And for some development portion, Alaxala Networks is founding, because Alaxala Network is, as I said in the beginning of this presentation, Alaxala Network is just for mission critical infrastructure operators or integrators. So we, Alaxala Networks, really want to increase the trust of the ICT infra. So we have been trying to think about what we can do. It's completely different approach as Cisco did. Everything has to be open. We don't close the door. We are not going to lock the door. Then we always open to work together. But another consideration, realistic consideration, is that I understand that there are a lot of similar activities. It can be, but my policy, this project policy, Trusted Network project policy is we are not going to compete because it doesn't make any sense. So we are going to collaborate. Don't compete each other. So this is project principle of the Trusted Network. So if we have two technologies or two solutions, then we can put them together, or we can keep them as an optional selection for the users. So we are not going to compete. So we always try to collaborate with existing activities. So I cannot tell you all the name of the company or all the name of activities, but there are a lot of activities. We are updating each other. Then this month, actually it's next week, we are going to launch Trusted Network Project Phase 2. It is going to expand the scope from ICT to semiconductor industry. So Taiwan-based semiconductor company is joining to the project, and Taiwan ICT vendors are joining. Taiwan telco is joining. So we have sufficient number of partners, ecosystem partners, but we need more. Am I answering to your question, Steve? Sorry, you ask a lot of questions, and some questions are.
I tend to be like that because I've been around the block a few times on these things. Yeah, and I work in procurement, right? So I mean, I just go through and look at what, if I'm buying something, whether it's a piece of hardware or software, what am I going to trust?
Okay,
right?
so first of all,
and single sources of trust, I guess, is going to be more interesting to me than having to manage multiple sources of trust. And then I also posted in chat is the how do I verify what I'm supposed to be trusting? So would I go to a synopsis at the end of the day, because I'm sure as soon as they get their arms around this, they'll want to commercialize this somehow, right? Somebody will want to commercialize this, and that's how commercial companies will connect into it, because ultimately most commercial companies connect trust with contractual liability. So that's a challenge, I would say.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. We have been trying to get the answer through the Trust and Network project activities. But for the trust business model, we actually have the sample pricing based on the cost analysis. And of course, as you can guess, it's not synopsis, but there are a lot of products utilized. It's not only OSS. We are not negative to utilize the existing solution and existing services. Otherwise, this project is going to be huge R&D project. And once we complete R&D, it's probably 10 years later. It's too late for us. So as much as possible, we keep everything open. But for some specific technologies, we are also trying to utilize commercial vendors' product. Then once we complete this project and framework is ready, as I explained to you in the beginning of this presentation, the first priority for us is to do standardization, because that is the only way to control the governance. But even if it's standardized, it's not realistic that there is only one framework in this planet. It's impossible. So we are trying to provide interoperability to any existing activities. For your information, we are going to provide the interoperability with Cisco Trustworthy as well, because Cisco is a biggest vendor. So there is no idea without Cisco. It doesn't make any sense without Cisco. So we are going to put this framework interoperable to Cisco Trustworthy. So that is a way we are going to not compete. So we are going to solve it by technology.
And just jumping in here with my side, I would just say that, Steve, I think you're right. There's a lot of initiatives circling each other. And even inside Linux Foundation, arguably there can be an improvement between projects and overlap. So I agree, there's a lot to be done. My take is that the OpenChain project is very high level. So things like this webinar, trying to get a picture of what others are doing and make sure that they're aware of what we're doing, is the first major step. In practice, I think what we're going to see is that a lot of initiatives are going to have partial overlap. So it's going to be a case of collaboration rather than replace or subsume. So I think you're right. And I think the important thing is that we get these webinars, these maps, these discussions, so we can see where we can work together. And not all ideas will stick. There's going to be some ideas floated that just won't make it. The important thing that we can have is a venue for professional, critical analysis of all of these concepts. Well, Mark, we're at the top of the hour, so we should finish there. And
Yep.
Deeply appreciate your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone joining the presentation. So one last thing. Give me 30 seconds.
Of course.
So in Okinawa Open Laboratory, we have developed the real. It's not paper machine. This is running system. So anytime we can do the demonstration, for example. We don't want to compete to any activity, okay? So we always try to find the best collaboration point. But again, we have running solution. So if you can give us any opportunity, or if there is any activities ongoing in Linux Foundation, I really hope that we can we have the opportunity to discuss together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. And this presentation is recorded. It'll be going out to the community at large. So I suggest that we take next steps as giving people time to digest this, and perhaps make sure that this conversation is potentially discussed on our mailing lists if people have follow-up questions. And of course, we should flag it for the SPDX community as well, so that they know this is happening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, are there any final questions? If not, then we shall call it a day there. Thank you everyone for your time, attention, and your engagement. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy. Talk to you soon.